Throughout loads of episodes of On The Mend, we've heard from our male guests that they felt so much pressure to not show weakness. But that narrative has shifted slightly. And now we're suddenly asking men to open up and wondering why that feels so hard. So today, I'm joined by two podcasting legends, Jake Humphrey from High Performance and Spencer Matthews from Untapped. And we're having a conversation that, if we're honest, a lot of men still avoid. We cover what's actually going on in our lives, why often it's so difficult to say our problems out loud, and what we can start to do differently. This is part of Say It Louder, our initiative we're running with BetterHelp over the next few months, where we're on a mission to encourage men to talk. Let's get into it.
Right, shall we break the ice? Are either of you currently in therapy?
Do you know what? I'm not right now. I have been recently, but I'm not at the moment. But I've been in therapy a lot in my life. Yeah, but I'm not right now at this moment.
Similar to you, Matt, I've kind of had periods of my life where I've been in therapy, you know, like once a week for an hour every week. And I'm not right now, although I still have contact with my therapist. There are times in my life where I feel like I need it more than other times, but also I'm a massive believer in having it when you're not in crisis, when you don't feel you need it, like a kind of maintenance act almost. I actually quite like the sitting with him in this case and just talking completely openly about yourself for a full hour, right? It's quite refreshing. You know, my wife would say that I'm selfish anyway, but like it's quite hard, isn't it?
Never had you down as someone who wants to talk about himself for an hour.
Do you know what I mean? Though?
Definitely not.
No, have you not? Okay, good. There's obviously been great progress made in recent years. Then.
Your therapist has done a great job on you.
Thank you, Jake.
Give me his number.
No, so I don't know. It is interesting, isn't it? Though, if something is bothering you, or you want a clear path through something, to sit even with a good friend and talk about yourself for a full hour is quite indulgent. It feels quite self-indulgent. Whereas in therapy, obviously, that's the point of it. So
I think also the last time I went to therapy, I hadn't had therapy for a couple of years, and I went there with nothing really. I kind of didn't go there for a specific reason or anything. I kind of went there. I went, everything's going pretty well, but I feel a little bit kind of flat. I should feel better about my life. Do you know what I mean? Which was it was like, why? Let's explain, break that down. You know, and it was kind of quite a weird time to go. And when I told people about that, they were quite surprised. They were like, oh, you're killing it. Everything's going good. I was like, yeah, but you know, I think that's probably a good time to go and check yourself a little bit. You know, would you ever feel embarrassed about telling someone that you're in therapy?
You know, the very definition of a good friend or family member should be very supportive of that. Right? So I don't think therapy is anything to be ashamed about at all. No. In fact, you know, I would put therapy in a similar category to running, lifting weights, you know, looking after yourself. You know, it's a workout for the mind. So, you know, me saying to my wife even, oh, you know, I'm going to be home a bit late. I'm having an hour of therapy after work. She would only ever see that as a positive thing, even if life was, in inverted commas, great.
I mean, there's been times in my life where I think when I first started kind of like exploring this kind of stuff, it did feel like an alien world to me. And it felt like something that you don't really tell anyone about, that you keep to yourself, you know, because people might think you're, you know, crazy or something, you know. So I was like, don't tell anyone, you know, keep this to yourself. You know, but I don't feel like that anymore.
I think there are some people that I might be anxious about or nervous to tell them I'm in therapy.
Yeah.
I can't think who those people are, but I think what bothers me is if you say, oh yeah, I'm in therapy at the moment, what's the follow-up question going to be? Oh, why? Or like, are you okay? Or can we do anything to help? And that's what I don't really want. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I wouldn't mind saying, oh yeah, I'm seeing someone at the moment because I'm struggling a bit. But then it's all the follow-up stuff.
You don't want the sympathy.
Yeah.
Not really.
That's why you go to a therapist for the follow-up questions.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. What about, I mean, obviously we're talking about therapists and you go in there and you basically tell them everything. Are there times in your life where, and it might even be now, where you don't tell people everything that's going on and you restrict the information that you share?
I think there has been times in my life where I've done that. I've not wanted to worry people.
Yeah.
You know, there's something about that. I think this is a lot of problem with men right now, is that I feel like it's like we kind of got conditioned in a way, you know, like from early on to kind of keep it in. Do you know what I mean? Like to not show any weakness, to kind of like keep calm, carry on, you know, just get on with it, you know, that kind of stuff, which I definitely felt. I felt like, I don't know, it was a sign of weakness to show that I was struggling.
Yeah, I think as well, it depends on the behavior really as well. Lots of the time that I have sought therapy has been around, abusing alcohol or certain behaviors that I would like to change. So sharing that information with people freely can feel a bit destructive, and it can come with a sense of shame. You don't necessarily want to be calling people who you love or, meeting people you love and going, oh, I'm off to see a therapist just because I can't control my drinking. That it's like, it's almost embarrassing. Well, it certainly felt like there was shame attached to it for me. So
yeah.
Like, I think that therapy, to build on your point from the stigma of therapy, I like to look at it as, a performance tool instead of therapy, like something that I need because I need to fix something in my life. It's kind of, how can I improve? How can I be better? Would it be beneficial to have an hour with this person? See it kind of like, I don't know, I'm not a huge fan of the term life coaching because the people giving it haven't lived a full life yet. So it's hard to coach somebody through a life, it's particularly as, everyone's experiences in life are different. But I like to see therapy as how can I be better than I currently am, and can this conversation help me achieve that? Instead of, I'm a bit broken, how do I fix myself?
Yeah.
Which of course is, it's the same thing, a different way of looking at it.
Yeah.
I think that's the barrier for young men in particular as well at the moment. Like this whole, I probably would be interested in talking to a therapist, but I don't want my friends and family to know, and I don't want people to think that there's something wrong with me. And and I'm a bit confused, and I think society expects one thing of me, but I don't feel that I can fulfill that. And so there's I think it's quite difficult in many cases to be a young man nowadays. It's almost like the role of a man has changed, and I think that people are struggling to keep up with it.
I think that's really interesting, because I think our parents probably, and our grandparents definitely, the role of a man was like, it was clear then, wasn't it? You would be the breadwinner, you would go out, you would graft, you would come home, and there's the family. And our grandparents would expect that the family was being run while they're out working. It's so different for us now. It's like, what are we?
Yeah.
Like, do we still do that? Do we be emotional? Do we bottle it all up? Do we share and tell the world exactly how we're feeling? Or like, what? I don't know what a man looks like these days.
Yeah.
I think the thing about sharing is interesting, because you guys have a slightly different experience to me, that Emma works and Vogue works. My wife, Harriet, doesn't. I mean, she does because she's at home with the kids, but she doesn't have a job that she goes to. So actually, it's very interesting when it comes to, do you tell everyone everything? In the world that we're in, where I work in London, and Harriet's in Norwich where we live, looking after the kids, there's loads of stuff she does that I don't even know about, right? Like get Seb's hockey stuff. I wouldn't know where to begin to find that stuff. Then there's a load of things that I do that Harriet wouldn't get involved in or know about. And actually that does create a really interesting dynamic in a relationship, where something happens and your partner goes, why are you not telling me everything? And actually you can't tell everyone everything. And also I think that I see my responsibility as going out, coming to work, creating high performance, building some few other businesses, and then making sure there's enough money that the mortgage gets paid and everything happens. And if there's a month where things are a bit tight, or I have to have a conversation with Harriet about money, there is like a definite shame or embarrassment linked to that. Where like she's done her side of the bargain, everything at home is rocking and rolling.
Yeah.
And I've had a month where like cash flow's been challenging in the business or something, and it's like, that is a really weird sort of tightrope, I think, that I tread sometimes. But
yeah. So do you find talking to someone about that kind of stuff, about the way you feel about that, helpful?
Yeah, I do. I think I like to, because actually we live in this world where we think that everything is flowing and perfect for other people. And it's when you talk to someone else that you would put either as an equal or above you in the business world or something, and they go, oh no, this is like how it is. It's a constant challenge. Trying to run a business, with 30 people or 100 people is not easy. Sometimes I think it's easy with 10,000 people because the business is so big.
Yeah.
Everything's going to be okay. Yeah. Like small businesses are hard. That is a big stress point for me, trying to be a business person and I'm not employed, right? By anyone. Everything I do is my own.
The buck falls with you.
On everything. Yeah. There's not a single thing that I do now where I'm employed. And that's hard. Basically, I'm unemployed and unemployable, and therefore it all rests on my shoulders. I actually preferred it when I used to just get a salary from BT Sport. I was talk about football and get paid. Lovely.
Great.
Well, look, we've got a bunch of questions in front of us. So we haven't seen them. We don't know what they're going to be. And I guess we just take it in turns to pick them up and speak. So who wants to go first? I think Matt.
Matt,
me? Right.
Yeah.
Please. Yeah.
I think Matt. Okay.
Who's going first?
Matt.
Okay, here we go. I'll go first. Right. Question 1, the double standard. Who in your life growing up actually showed you how to deal with something hard? Whoa. Who in your life growing up showed you how to deal with something hard?
That's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, so like a role model or something, I suppose, or someone that you were...
For mine, it was my parents, and the answer was always the same thing. Hard work.
Yeah.
So
Manners.
we came from a house of hard work, basically. So I remember, and these things happen when you don't even realise as a kid. My dad lost his job in about 1986, 1987. We had 3 kids. We had no money, really. We lived in Peterborough. Clothes came from jumble sales. Holidays, if we had one once a year, it would just we'd drive a car to a campsite and camp. But when you don't know anything different, you don't know that there's not much money floating around, so it's just your life. And then I remember my dad was suddenly away from us all the time behind this locked door in the house, which was his study. And again, you don't relate to what's happening, but now I know he was doing an MA. So he basically went back to college or went back to uni whilst working, whilst having 3 kids, whilst having no money, because he lost his job and he was trying to educate himself to get a better job. And so he would still at this time be working. So he'd go to work all day, come home, do his degree all evening. And I think he went for like 9 or 10 jobs and didn't get any of them. And again, you don't understand that stress. And then as we got older, it was always all about hard work. If ever there was a challenge in the house, we sort of lent into hard work.
Yeah.
And it was the answer to everything, which is why I was doing a paper round at like 12 years old.
Yeah, I only have memories of my dad working, basically, same as you. Or he was a serious grafter. He's 83 years old and is still working all day, every day. He's just decided... I'm not sure how much he'd want me to share here, but quite funny. He literally just bought a pub in Bewley in the Highlands of Scotland, in the middle of nowhere, and he's just in there all day, every day, ripping the thing down, like doing it up. He's got guests coming in, like a few. It's just quite a random.
Wonder why
project.
He feels the need to be doing that.
Yeah, but and he's built incredible businesses, but he is completely attached to redoing this pub. He's 83. He's always worked like that. My mum as well has always been like a grafter, always busy. Obviously, I grew up in the same house as 2 brothers, James and Michael. James was a very gifted racing driver from a young age, so I would kind of see him not really be able to be in school. He was, a professional racing driver when he was very young, so he didn't do particularly well in school because he was never around to... he'd take his exams and stuff, but he wasn't in school. He was busy traveling, racing. And Michael, obviously, we lost quite young. He was the youngest Brit to climb Everest and died when he was 22. But I remember that pretty vividly as a 10-year-old. I remember feeling, what an incredible thing it is that somebody as young as Michael would want to climb Everest, be that adventurous at such a young age.
And what did your parents show you about how to deal with that?
I remember when we first found out, we were in the French West Indies at the time that we got the call. I was in my room and they were in theirs, room above me, and they kind of called me and they said to come upstairs. Came upstairs and they were kind of holding each other and they were very sad, visibly quite like the atmosphere was very awkward in the room. It was strange because they had always been like, I'd never seen my parents upset before. And they kind of held me as well and said, Michael is lost on the mountain. And I can remember at the time just being quite naive and just thinking, well, that's fine. Obviously, I'm sure he'll be found. And so it didn't hit me until quite a lot later. But they were very strong. My mum in particular was incredibly strong. She was, broken by it, incredibly sad, and so was the whole family. Nobody has been the same, exactly the same since. But they never showed, a lot of it. They shielded me from how they really felt in order to let me live my life as a 10-year-old. You know, like I was never dragged into the, you know, very pure sadness of it all. You know, it was kind of, you know, go and play and see your friends, and it wasn't so much a, you know, I think you would exclude a 10-year-old from the turmoil of that situation. So I remember them dealing with it quite well for me. I didn't process it till quite a lot later. So I only had therapy for it in my adult life, like years and years later. And we went to Everest to try and find his body, and we made that film, Finding Michael. And, you know, I learned an awful lot about the mountain on the mountain, and kind of, you know, just was able to let go of some of the pain when I was up there. But I had a fair amount of therapy around his death and not really processing it as a kid. I think death is quite an unusual thing to contend with as a child. You know, I'm not sure. It's obviously, you know, you watch The Lion King and stuff, and it's a circle of life, and it's all a part of living. So I think you're just a little bit more accepting of it. I think, you know, I think when you're in your,
I suppose that is the case for maybe say a grandparent, but when it's your brother, you know, and they're like what 10, 12 years older than you, it kind of must be kind of like a bit of a world spinner.
Yeah, no, it definitely was. You know, it's you know, we don't talk about it too much anymore, but it's it will have had a huge impact on my brother James. Obviously, they were a year apart. They were best friends. You know, they grew up together. You know, in the same house all the time. Lived together in London. So that, you know, I can only imagine it must have been harder for James than it was for me. Obviously, difficult for everyone in the family, but for him in particular. But, you know, I'm fortunate to come from a family where people have done difficult things around me all of the time. You know, like my mum raising a large family, my father always working, always grinding. He was a mechanic, and then, you know, became a racing driver himself, and then built businesses. And, you know, I see my dad as a real, a huge inspiration of mine. You know, I still bounce stuff off. He's 83, as I say. You know, he's absolutely sharp. You know, if I have business ideas, I'll call him first, you know, and bounce them off him. And he tries not to be too pessimistic in his old age, but he is.
Yeah.
What's your answer to the question?
I mean, if I'm honest, I didn't really have that growing up. Like, I mean, I kind of
What, hard stuff or?
Well, we had hard stuff, but I don't know if I had anyone who showed me how to deal with it. Like, I was very kind of I don't know. I felt like I was always quite on my own in a way. I wasn't very close with my family. You know, I mean, I suppose we were close as most things, but it was quite a troubled childhood. So it was kind of quite difficult to kind of, I would never go to them with any problems, you know, or they would never show me any problems. Or if it was a row or something, I kind of experienced that. But I never really, I didn't really have that until I was probably a teenager, and I had a friend called Ed, and Ed's dad, Paul, was this kind of like, I think he had Ed when he was about 16 years old, and he drove a nice car, and he lived in the cool part of town, and I was like, who the fuck is this guy? You know, like, and how is he your dad? He looks just a bit older than us, you know. It was so crazy, and I admired him so much because he was so open.
That's you, Jake.
And he'd ask me, how I was, you know, and he'd kind of like, you know, he'd kind of check in on me a little bit.
Was that the first time in your life you'd experienced that from an adult?
Yeah, I think so. I really admired him. I kind of like, and it was the first time anyone had kind of asked me if I was all right and actually wanted the answer.
Yeah.
You know, and actually wanted to, and I didn't answer truthfully, you know, but he kind of left that open, so if I ever wanted to, I could.
Are you still in touch with him?
Yeah, all the time. He was best man at my wedding.
I love that.
You know,
because I think sometimes people have these, they come in your
life
life
to
at
Ed's
these right
dismay.
times,
and
then you're really grateful, and then you sort of never actually tell them that, and they just float off into the distance, and years later you think, man, why didn't I tell them how I felt? So I'm so pleased you did.
He's been an amazing part of my life. Like, and I went through loads of struggles and stuff, and he was very much there, you know, and he was, it was like, but also I kind of, I got this kind of feeling of, because he was from where we were, you know, he was from the same council estates that we grew up in, you know, and he made this life. And I remember I went skiing with him, right, when I was about, 21, 22 or something. And, you know, from this like appearance of this baller guy, you know, he'd make us sandwiches and stuff because the mountain was too expensive. And I was like, oh, he's still, you know, he's still got a sense of what, you know, he's not like, you know, it's like, so I really admired everything about him. You know, it was a real good thing.
Love that.
Yeah. He sounds great.
Yeah, it was great.
Do you think men are feeling lost about their place?
Yes.
Yeah. Just to pick on something you said earlier on, which I think was really interesting. I think it might be Newspencer actually. Like, I feel like the
probably me.
Like the job, the job description has changed.
Yeah.
But no one's given you the new script. Do you know what I mean? It's like we as men, we're not quite sure what our place is in anymore. Do you know what I mean? Like, I feel like, not for everyone obviously, but I feel like that's a real looming thing. You kind of like, you don't really know where your place in the world is right now. You know, what's your, you know, it used to be quite structured and quite easy to follow. Now, what is that?
I think you're right. I rally against this phrase, toxic masculinity, right? Because I think that any time we talk about masculinity being toxic, we're giving a message. You know, you've got a son, have you?
Yeah.
You've got a son, I've got a son. I worry that we're saying to them, oh, being masculine is toxic.
Absolutely,
and it really bothers me that. I think that what we've done is we've got confused about what masculinity is, and we think it's like, it's about dominance and it's about control and it's about exerting pressure and it's about pushing and finding limits. Masculinity is none of those things. Like, you know, masculinity is strength, but that's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
Masculinity is also vulnerability. Masculinity is hard work, but masculinity is also relying on other people. Masculinity is being confused and trying to find the answer. You know, like, and I think that what we've done is we've taken how masculinity might have looked 100 years ago. We've said it's toxic, and then we've said any time that anyone shows any masculine traits in 2026, then it must be toxic. And it's not true. The reality is that masculinity and the role of a man has changed.
Yeah.
We're trying to work out where we are at. So you have to look at men in a new way, and I don't think a lot of people are.
If we're looking at our place in society, I do think that's complicated for men. Like it was simpler before. You know, if you take my example even and yours, Matt, you know, my wife works really hard. She does really well. She's, you know, incredibly popular. She does all of the stuff that she loves doing. She earns lots of money. You know, so all of a sudden the necessity for me to go out and do that is only personal to me.
Yeah.
You know, like she doesn't need it even. Yeah. So it's sort of like even though my aim is to go out, work really hard and provide for my family, that's not really, it is what I'm doing, but it's also not
what they need.
It's not what she needs.
Yeah, what
right?
she needs.
So she needs me to be a present father and, you know, somebody that is around and on hand to be with the kids and to help her. Which, of course, is something that my dad would have just never done because he's in the office, he's working, he's not there. That's not his role,
and would never have felt bad about that.
Yeah,
because it was required. It was the necessity.
But nobody would have even batted an eyelid. He was a bad parent, for example. And I'm not saying that you know anyone's suggesting that I'm a bad parent, but it is quite difficult when, you know, I'll go out in the morning and I'll train really early and then we'll go and work all day. And you know, you're trying your absolute best to find ways to earn as much money as possible, you know, so that we can all have a free and amazing life. And you come home and your wife's still out working. So it's kind of like, right, okay, well, I'm on kids' duty in Bath and all that's fine. That's not a problem at all. I love spending time with my kids, but it's kind of, we're both doing two big roles and it can feel like quite a lot, you know, so it's just interesting.
The next question is, how good have you become at hiding your struggles?
Oh,
I mean, that's probably
some
pretty good for you, Matt.
Pretty good for me, I'd say. I've got a fucking PhD in it. I think it's one of those things. It's like you know, it eventually just tips over. You know, the cup just becomes too full that it just tips over. I thought I became really good at hiding, but I suppose looking back on it, it was didn't serve me at all. You know, like I was never truthful or honest about anything. Yeah. Like I just couldn't be. I didn't really know what that was. You know, like I think it's not until I started therapy really I stopped performing. You know what I mean? I think that was my kind of my thing is I was always. It was a performance act of I'm all right, I'm killing it, I'm doing all right, you know, like I'm this guy, this wacky guy, or like feeding into these ideas of what other people wanted me to be, and it's not until I started therapy that I really kind of went, oh, actually, how do I feel? And I'd never really asked myself that question.
The strange thing about the drinking as well is that when you get to the stage when you know it's wrong or like socially acceptable and you do it anyway, that's when you're in, for me, like the really murky territory of, I kind of really feel like a drink, but I'm not gonna express that to anyone because I know it's quite early and I wouldn't want them thinking I'm drinking, so I'll just have the drink and then I'll hide it. I went through a lot of that. Right? Like I'd walk past a pub and it would be, I'd just pop in quickly, have a quick drink, boom, and then I'd kind of just ignore the fact that I'd had a drink, and then that might happen again, and then later when you're with your friends, like, oh, shall we have a drink? Like kind of so that then you've got away with it, and like so I used to do that all the time. There'd be more drinking than there actually was on paper.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you're like a bit pissed, but nobody else is pissed. And it's kind of like, well, why is he pissed? He's only had like 2 beers, but actually had like 8.
Everyone thinks you're a lightweight. Yeah.
And it's kind of like, it is dishonest. I find it actually really easy to be completely open and honest about everything when I'm not drinking.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing to hide.
There's nothing to hide.
There's nothing to be odd about. There's nothing to...
Yeah. I've had moments even recently where I've kind of felt like I was slightly hiding how I'm feeling. Like there's something about me like where if I'm feeling a bit overwhelmed or like things are getting a bit heavy and a bit hard, I still have something in me that doesn't want to tell people I love.
Really?
Like still now, like I won't tell Emma exactly how I feel. Are you all right? Yeah, good.
So, because I never tell.
Yeah, really?
No.
Yeah.
But not intentionally.
Yeah.
So Harriet will say to me, what's going on? You seem a bit quiet or a bit distant. And the truth is I'm thinking of a million things that are going on that are worrying me.
Yeah.
But I still have this voice going, but it's not her problem.
That's exactly what I feel.
Your shit.
That's exactly how I feel.
So lay there and deal with it. And it's like, it's so hard to describe this to people because when you kind of get found out and they go, and Harriet will go, why don't you tell me stuff?
Yeah.
I kind of want to say, look, there's no intentional, I don't go to my brain doesn't go, I really want to tell you this, but I'm going to decide not to tell you. My brain doesn't even go to the point where it says, oh, maybe I should tell someone this. I don't even realise that I'm not telling anyone. Does that make sense? It's not an intentional hiding away of information.
I'm not purposely lying.
No,
it's not like I'm just like I just don't want to burden someone.
Inside you.
Yeah.
Well, admitting your truth in my view is not the same as lying.
Yeah.
Right? So I think omitting certain details that would certainly be considered lying is lying. But like keeping something to yourself and not sharing it.
How often do you feel overwhelmed?
Lying.
This is a paid advertisement with BetterHelp. Guys, for the next 3 months, On The Mend is partnering with BetterHelp on something called Say It Louder. Because the truth is, a lot of us were never taught how to talk about what's going on in our heads. We just get on with it. Keep it moving. Don't make a thing of it. But it doesn't disappear. It builds stress, pressure, anxiety, and eventually it all comes out in ways maybe you're not so proud of. And it's usually not one big moment either. It's the quiet stuff, the things we don't say, the things we push down. Over time, that adds up. That's why this matters, because 60% of UK men who sign up for BetterHelp cite anxiety as a reason for starting therapy. According to internal BetterHelp data, that's 60%. This show has always been about being honest about what's really going on underneath, and Say It Louder is about making that easier, not just once, but properly over time. Not because something's wrong with you, but because having a space to actually say it out loud, for a lot of men, that's the first time it's ever happened. If you want to take that first step, you can sign up and get 10% off at betterhelp.com/onthemend. That's BetterHelp.com/onthemend. I go through waves. Right now, quite a lot. I think I've taken on a bit too much in my life. So I'm kind of like, but then I have this other voice that goes, well, you just need to get through this patch because then it'll be chill then. And like, I've been doing that for about a year. So I might need to take my foot off the gas a little bit. But and then I think, well, I've got myself in this mess. Exactly. I don't want to burden anyone else with it because I'll just go, well, you did it. You did it to yourself.
Have either of you ever tried just like communicating everything to your wives? Because it's quite refreshingly nice. And this came up in therapy for me. It's kind of like, well, have you told Verg exactly how you feel about this? And when you're just like in bed, chilling, why don't you just say what you're saying to me now?
Yeah.
And I've tried it a few times. And it works. It's nice.
Really?
Yeah. Because I wouldn't say I'm the kind of person that's regularly overwhelmed. But I certainly find that if I don't tell her when things are going wrong in my life, then it does
then that can build up,
creep up as a surprise, right?
Yeah.
Whereas like I always encourage her to do exactly the same thing. If anything's bothering you, not even with me, just share it with me so that I know. Because if you bottle it up and you hold on to it and it gets worse and worse and worse, and then there's suddenly this explosion, I'm in the dark. I don't know what's going on. You know, and it's kind of the same with me. So now I do make an effort sometimes. Like I'll get into bed and I'll go like, oh, this happened today and this happened today, and I'm working through it, but I'm sure it'll be fine. So she's aware of it, just in case anything blows up. It kind of.
I'm going to try that.
It's nice actually.
Yeah. I've lived this. I'm in this weird world where Harriet is brilliant at advice. Every time I speak to Harriet, she comes up with something, and I'm like, oh my gosh, how do I? Why don't I see the world like that?
Yeah.
But then I don't. But then I unintentionally don't tell her everything that's going on. I just get on with it. And I kind of feel like I'm in this really interesting place where I've never had like an exit from a business. So I've not got like loads and loads of like spare cash flowing around the bank, right? So therefore I have to work hard. And all the businesses that I'm involved in, as I've already said, I own them. So I have to work extra hard to keep that going. And then my parents are getting older. My kids are getting older. Life's never felt more expensive. I'm getting older and I have all these like little physical things that you start to feel. And it's just this like squeeze in your 40s, late 40s, that no one ever warns you about. But things are just not as free as they were even like 5 years ago. But I also feel like I need some kind of reward well, I left school at 18. Honestly, I promise you, I have worked every single day. I've woken up and thought, right, I'm going to give 100% today to get myself somewhere where I'm going to get loads of great rewards at the end of this. And then I'm now 30 years into this journey, and I'm starting to think like, when does this come?
It'll come, Bubba.
I hear people say that your 40s is amazing because you give less fucks. I'm like, I give so many fucks.
More fucks than I've ever given.
More fucks than I've ever given.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
What does it cost you when you just keep going and push through? I mean, I kind of feel like I'm doing that right now. I feel like I'm kind of like, I'm in Cabaret at the moment in the West End, and I'm doing stuff during the day, and I've got a show in the evening. We do 8 shows a week. Yeah. So also I'm filming a documentary with the BBC, which the thing is that I did make my own bed, right? So now I'm kind of like forcing myself to lie in it because I had commitments, like On the Mend is a massive commitment to me, and I love it. And I'm also filming an addiction documentary with the BBC at the moment, which was all tied up in a very tight timescale that I have to finish it in. And then I got this role that came through whilst the band was on tour. It came through last minute. It's a dream job, like the role that I've wanted to play, MC in Cabaret, since I saw it like 5 years ago. I'm very happy to be in it. But that's like, so I'm working all day long from like 8:30 a.m. till about midnight, 7 days a week, which is, I'm feeling the pinch a little bit right now. But then, so I have this holiday with my kids to Disney World, which I'm sure won't be a holiday, which will be very stressful and intense, but I will love it. And it was good because I literally was like, I did that stupid thing where I was like, don't worry, you're not going to see me for 4 months, but then I'm going to buy you a holiday, so love me, and this so that's playing on my head as well. And then, so I feel like I'm exactly what this question is about. I don't feel great about it all. I feel like I'm missing a lot of things at the moment, and I kind of.
And I think that's the answer to the question: is what does it cost you when you push through? I think what it cost you is what matters.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
A few years ago, I had an interview with a guy on high performance with a guy called Shane Parrish, and if you'd looked at my life outwardly, I was doing Champions League, Premier League, running high performance, running the Whisper Group. Stuff was good. It was like everything was in the like modern way in which you would measure someone's success. You'd say, "Oh, that's great," and I just felt totally.
Yeah.
And I said this to this guy Shane. He said, "Well, show me your diary," which is on my phone. So I showed him my phone, and he went through it and he goes, "Cool. Like, what do you love? Like, what really matters?" And I said, time with the kids, time with Harriet, and a bit of time to play paddle with my mates or walk the dog or, just go and watch Norwich City play or something like that. And he goes, great, where's that in the diary? And I said, well, it's embarrassing to put time with your wife or kids or time for yourself in your diary. Like, that's an example that you've fucked your life up somehow, right? And he said, not at all. He said, everything else is in your diary, so why is the stuff that matters not in your diary? So he described this concept of pay yourself first to me. And he said, on a Sunday night, sit down and pay, you and your wife together, pay yourselves. Like, decide then, where's the stuff that we want to do? And because urgent stuff will always come into your life.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
important that the urgent stuff doesn't always get rid of the important stuff. So you need to put it in your diary and it doesn't move and it's non-negotiable. And then you can still be crazy busy and lots of stuff going on and it's like, woohoo! But it's those few little things is where your happiness lies. And I think we get tricked into thinking our happiness lies in our business success or whatever, and often it isn't where the happiness lies.
Yeah.
I used to think hard work matters, now I'm not sure.
You're not so sure about that?
I think we've been responsible on high performance for actually some mistakes where we've lauded high performance too much.
Really?
I think we've told the world that it's really important to work hard.
But maybe you've taken that from a kind of a work perspective. Well, what about working hard on yourself, working hard on your mind, pushing yourself in the gym? I think, I've been very, very, very unhealthy and obviously I'm pretty healthy now. Yeah. And I think
it's where does it come from, though?
Performance like is to do the whole thing.
But you have an addictive personality because you were addicted to alcohol and now you're addicted to exercise. It doesn't mean it's... Being fit and healthy is healthy. Being addicted to fitness and health isn't necessarily healthy.
Yeah, but what's the difference in exercising a habit regularly and being addicted to something?
I think if you're exercising...
There's consistency, right? Like,
if you're exercising to remove demons or to give yourself calm...
I don't think I ever say to myself, I'm going to go to the gym to get rid of, the past. Like, I go to the gym because I like being well.
But is there not?
I think that's an interesting thing, isn't it?
Punishing yourself a bit.
Maybe, I don't know. From time to time, maybe.
I think so.
Naughty.
Yeah.
What do you think is stopping men from opening up?
Well, I think it's stopping men from opening up.
Like embarrassment, shame and embarrassment, stigma of therapy, perhaps.
Yeah.
Looking weak.
Yeah. I think looking weak. Also, who to open up to. I think it's all very well and good saying men should talk, but who do they talk to? It's about picking the right person, I think, at times. Do you know what I mean?
I think that most people wouldn't. I think there's less fear about going to see a therapist than there is about opening up to people in your life.
Yeah.
But I think if speaking to a therapist feels like a way bigger step than speaking to a partner or a friend. So I think it's like there's more fear attached to someone who's already in your life. But it feels like much less of a big deal. Like to actually say I'm in therapy, I think it's a scary thing for a lot of men to say.
I kind of think that's a bit of a shame. It's stigmatized, isn't it? Because I would think the opposite. Like, I would prefer to go somewhere or jump online and have a conversation with a stranger who's a professional and then just shut the laptop rather than open up to... I open up to my family and people that I love when I feel like I need to, but I still think that I would see the therapy as like a professional transaction.
Yeah,
like it's not.
Yeah, and that works for you.
You're not taking any risk,
and that works for you. Like that feels.
You can jump on and you can literally just like spew whatever you need to say, right? And it's confidential, it's private, it's not going anywhere. It's kind
and
of.
Also, it's a
you don't need to run the risk of kind of if your head's in, really somewhere a bit wayward, you don't need to run the risk of anyone having an opinion of what you're saying, or taking it the wrong way or having it affect them or having them feel in some way responsible. I've had that in the past where you say how you're feeling and, all of a sudden the very empathetic partner that you have thinks it's their fault. And it's like, oh God, I'm not blaming anyone. I'm just saying, how I feel. So it's better to have to just leave it in the room, I think.
Yeah, I learned that quite early on because I went into a therapy session early into recovery and I walked down and he sat down and he like, how are you doing? I said, I've been thinking. He went, that's dangerous. And I was like, oh, and I started to go on and he went, Matt, can I give you some advice? He goes, never go inside your own head without an adult present. I was like,
what a great line.
That is a fucking great line.
Yeah.
And I need that. I was about 24. You know, so and it was a great line. I've really kept to that because like sometimes I'm like, if I start to kind of go in there and start to think about things, I can make things so much.
So where do you
worse.
go then? If because you're not in therapy at the moment, so who do you speak to today?
But I'm very having this conversation has made me very aware of how much I need to do it right now. I think so. So yeah, I would go to a therapist.
So you think this though feels a bit like therapy?
Yeah, it does. It feels nice. Do you know?
I think particularly
already. No, literally, I just
Sorting you out.
already. I can't wait
Breaking you
to
down psychologically.
Jay's taking a sabbatical.
Exactly.
after
What we've realised from this is I basically want out.
Yeah, exactly.
I am done.
Exactly.
And I don't know how to get out.
Exactly. You're out. Both our podcasts are fucked. Yeah. Exactly. It's great.
Here's a question, right? Your kids are younger than how old are yours?
They're 7, 5, 4, and 1 on the way in September.
Fucking hell! Wow.
Yeah.
Mine are 16, 14, and 9.
Would you?
What's the 16 and 14-year-old like as teenagers?
Amazing.
Great.
Is there a big change? Easier or harder?
I got told this. Everyone always told me, because I was like, my kids are really cool, right? And they were really good kids. And everyone would always say, just you wait. Just wait till they're teenagers. I waited. They're fucking great.
Great. Okay. Cool.
They're cool kids. And
That's a lot to do with you and Emma, though. By the way.
But they're also like they're just cool kids.
So would you, if you
open
went
up and
into
talk to us.
therapy, would you tell your kids?
Yeah, I did last time I was in.
And what was the reaction?
They were like, cool. But I think we're quite open, and also I've been very open about me, and luckily they haven't seen too much carnage of me, so like they know it from like a observer kind of like a storytelling way of what Dad used to be like, So but I don't think there's definitely no stigma in my house about that kind of stuff.
What do you do for your mental health?
Do you know what? Something that I've been really keen on is a thing called Yoga Nidra, right? It has changed my life.
Yoga Nidra.
Yoga Nidra.
Sick.
Basically,
Like it sounds cool.
Sounds sexy, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Basically, it's kind of yogic sleep, right? So it's like you follow a script, you put headphones on, you lie down. It's like meditation, but you kind of go into this kind of sleep-like trance, but you're awake. And you kind of like focus on different parts of your body. This sounds a bit woo-woo and a bit like, how do you do that? How do you switch your brain off? But I've tried so many different types of meditation and I never feel like I'm getting anywhere with it. This, I don't have to feel like I'm doing anything. I just lay down, I focus on different parts of my body, and then half an hour's passed and I haven't thought about my crazy head for half an hour. And I just think about like, if you focus on your fingertip, then your other finger, then your other finger.
And it tells you to do that. It'll say like, focus on your fingertip.
And what's the idea that it just frees your brain from...
Yeah, from the
spinning out
from
for a while.
from the chaos.
Oh, really?
It's just a complete like reset.
What do? I exercise.
Yeah.
By the way, I wouldn't say that I'm addicted. Actually, it's interesting, right? Like, I'm not addicted to exercise in the way that I was addicted to like alcohol and drinking, because you lose control of that. It's not like if my day's busy and I don't have time to go running that I'm going to freak out. Like, it's kind of
Really though, like so if you're on a training plan and you have to.
If I'm
miss
in a
a day,
training plan, it's a bit different. I like Jake was talking
But
about
that's
the
like a
diary.
job,
I
isn't
would
it?
diarise my training
Yeah,
plans.
right,
I
okay.
would get in touch with YMU. I would say
Yeah.
these runs are non-negotiable.
Right.
Or like we can move them, but they have to happen this day.
Okay, great.
Thing. I love lifting weights. Like I love lifting weights. I lift weights 3 times a week at least with a friend of mine. I've lifted weights with him for maybe 14 years.
Wow.
His name's Sean Stafford. I think you maybe know him.
I know Sean Stafford. Well, I know of him.
Yeah. He's a wonderful. He's just
That's a good guy to lift weights with.
Beautiful heart, like lovely dude, just amazing guy. I love spending my 3 hours a week with him.
Yeah.
It's first thing in the morning, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, if I'm able to, and it really does a lot for me. That and even on like when I'm away and there's no kind of gym and like I run every day, it's not quite the same. Like if I had to pick one, I'd probably go with weights.
Really?
I just feel I don't know. It's really, really good for my mental health. That like if I go 4 or 5 days without lifting, I'm noticeably a little bit aggravated.
Yeah.
Jiu-jitsu is a good one as well.
Yeah.
I don't train anywhere near as much as I'd like to. I used to train 5 times a week. Then I got into these like larger challenges and I didn't want to hurt myself before doing them, and they take months to prepare for. So I just stopped rolling a bit. But there's another incredible guy with an amazing heart called Paxton Gibbons, who's a black belt, third Dan black belt under Hodger Gracie, and I roll with him. And he is like a Sean. He's just this incredible presence and person, and a really amazing guy. And that's a wonderful thing to get into as well. It's something that I would advise anyone to get their kids into is jiu-jitsu.
It's funny when you talk about this, because the two things that bring you the most joy in those things aren't the running, which is solo. It's the being with someone else. It's that connection with another human. Do you feel that?
Yeah. Even running with somebody is better than running
Really?
alone. Yeah. I do a lot of solo running.
Yeah.
And like anyone else, it's, you can't pretend that it's that exciting. It can be quite boring. It depends. If you're doing like a nice tempo speed session where you really have to be on it, it's a little different to, yesterday I went for a slow cruise on my own. It's boring. Can be boring.
Really?
Yeah. I listened to an Untapped episode, actually. I hate my voice.
Really?
Yeah. I was listening to it and I was just like, I sound shit.
Yeah, that's interesting because that aligns with the feedback from the audience. Okay.
Ollie Patrick's amazing though.
Those episodes with Ollie Patrick.
He's so good, isn't he?
I'm having a go at something for the first time, making friends.
Right.
Which is an interesting thing for me because I've always not really lived in this world where I've needed or had like loads of great mates.
Yeah.
And traditionally I've been jealous of guys when they've gone, oh man, I love hanging out with my university buddies, or I love it when I get together with my old schoolmates, and I'm thinking,
I don't have any.
How have I missed?
I don't have any.
See, I feel the same. I've lived this transient life. Like I look at like my 40th birthday party, and I haven't seen most people from it because it was just full of people who I was working with at that time.
Yeah.
And my brain was, I mean, there's a few friends there as well, but my brain is like, oh, they're your friends. Oh, okay, now I realise that they're just my work colleagues.
It's so like, sorry I honestly don't mean to bring this straight back onto me, but it's my 40th, not next year, the year after, right? And for some reason, Vogue and I were talking about it the other day randomly, just like, and she was like, who would be like, top of your list of your friends to come to your, and I was just like, I rattled off like 3 people, and then I was just like, fucking hell, I haven't really got any other kind of close mates. And then obviously you sit on it and you go, oh, of course, like them and them. But like, initially you're just a bit like, oh.
What encouraged you to start therapy? What's the biggest misconception and what actually happens in a session?
My friend put me to bed one night and I thought he was coming around to chill with me, and I was incredibly drunk, and he walked in and I could barely kind of sit up straight, and he literally just walked in, put my arm over his shoulder, walked me to bed, lay me down, and left. Didn't say a single word. And I was just lying in bed thinking, oh my God, that's absolutely pathetic.
It's grim.
Yeah. And I was just like, Matt, are you coming? Like, just door shut. And I was like, oh my God. So I sought therapy after that. So my reason for going to therapy for the first time was alcohol abuse. And like loneliness, really, like alcohol abuse. The two went hand in hand. Like I would drink during the day, and when most people were working, so I didn't have anyone really to drink with. It was all quite sad, actually, at one point.
When I think of the last time I went to therapy, because I've been to therapy because of, I went to rehab many, many times. So I kind of like was forced into it. But the last time I went to therapy, like on my own, I was in my car and I was driving and I didn't have anything on. I didn't have any music on.
I thought you meant clothes.
I had nothing else to drive. So definitely
naked
need
driving, go to therapy.
Go to therapy. I was just alone in my thoughts, and I suddenly just went, oh, I'm a little bit sad. And then I noticed it, and then I noticed it again. Then I noticed it again. And I was like, oh, that's hanging around. Like it's not like, and there was no reason for it. Nothing had happened. No kind of like, no sad thing had happened. I was just like, oh, that's maybe becoming my state when I'm on my own. And I was like, oh, that's something I need to go and get checked out. So I went there and literally within 6 sessions, I was like, oh, I realised what that is. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. And then I worked on it for a bit and it was gone.
Brilliant. Mine was so I had a real weird period in the early 2000s when I had these mad intrusive thoughts. So I just basically thought that horrendous things were going to happen and that I was going to do the horrendous thing.
Is this like when you walk past an oven and you like imagine putting your kid in the oven?
Yeah, exactly.
That type,
or when you're driving a car and you think, what if I just steered into the central reservation? But now imagine living with that all the time.
You have that?
I did.
All right.
24/7, and everything you see, you think, what if I just did this? What if I just did that? But then you think it's real. And it feels so real that you can't imagine it isn't real.
Wow.
So, and this is a long time ago where there was nothing like BetterHelp, and conversations like this were not happening.
Yeah.
So I did not know what to do. So for 2 years, I would lay in bed like sweating, and my girlfriend at the time would be like, why are you soaking wet? What's going on? I'd be like, I don't know, I'm just a bit hot tonight, can't sleep. And I didn't want to go, well, for the last 2 years, I've thought I'm going to do something absolutely insanely crazy. And I couldn't talk to anyone at work about it because it's like, you can't be a kids' TV presenter and mental. Those two things don't marry up.
Yeah.
So that would have cost me my job, I would have thought. And there was nowhere to turn. Do you know what I eventually did? I was reading the Mirror one day on the tube, going back from Children's BBC back to my flat. And there was like an 0898 high rate number advert in the back for a psychologist. And it literally said, are you suffering with mental health problems? Call this number. It's the best thing I ever did.
Really?
I rang this number, yeah. And it was like, those like £1.50 a minute phone lines.
Lovely.
And this bloke answered and changed my life. He went, hi. And the voice, I can still hear his voice now. It was the most reassuring thing I've ever heard in my life. And I told him what was going on. He said, this is really highly treatable. You need to go and have some therapy. So I've tracked down this lady called Ruth, who was incredible. And I went in to speak to her. And two things she said to me. She said, the first thing is, if you're the kind of person that's going to do the things you're worried about, well, you wouldn't be worried about it. You would just do it, thinking it's normal. So you're normal. Like, you're not abnormal. There's nothing wrong with you. She said the second thing, all the pain is coming from you fighting these feelings, thinking that a non-real thing is real. So you're fighting. She said, it's not real, so stop fighting it. Just accept that strange thoughts, particularly young men, which I think is really interesting. She said, she described it as an existential period that a lot of young men go through. She said, men have this and think it's real, and that's why suicide rates are so high and why so many men struggle. She said, you need to accept that this is just literally imagination and nothing more. Let it go. And that was it.
Wow.
And it was 20 years ago. And I've not had a flare up, a recurrence. I feel mentally like exceptional. But if I hadn't been on the tube and opened the newspaper that day, who knows how that might have ended.
Yeah.
What's the biggest misconception about therapy and what actually happens in a session?
I was always worried about like I thought they were going to go into really dark stuff.
Yeah.
Like kind of find traumatic moments in your life and really kind of go deep into them. And I was like, it kind of felt to me like Pandora's box. I was like, I don't want to open that.
Yeah.
And that wasn't my experience at all. It just wasn't. Like, we didn't have to go to anything I didn't want to, and like sometimes we go some places and I go, oh, wait. And it was kind of like much more open dialogue.
I was always worried they'd try and place blame. So like I like when I first went to therapy, I was always worried that they'd be like, how was your childhood? And like try and blame my parents or my mum on my alcoholism, and that would like drive me nuts. But then obviously they never did that. I had really weird therapy the first time. Like, I actually loved it. I think he was either a controversial style of therapist or just summed me up straight away. I'd like to think the latter because it makes him, a more powerful kind of therapist, I suppose. But I came in and he, I hadn't drank that day because I, like you, was forced by John Knoll, the agent, to go to go and see Chip Summers, and walked in and I was sober at the time. I had drank the night before, but I'd purposefully not drank that day just so that I could be sober for the meeting, so that he could report back to John that there's absolutely nothing wrong with me and that I'm fine. And I sat down and he goes, God, you reek of booze. And I was like, I haven't had a drink today. And he was like, when was the last time you drank? And I was like, last night. And he was like, whiskey, was it? I was like, yeah. And he was just like, God, well, as soon as you leave, I'm going to have to open the windows here so that the next patient doesn't think I've been drinking. And he was quite horrible to me, like initially, like for the first kind of 15 minutes, like quite aggressive on the like how disgusting I am. And I can remember thinking like,
And was that a tactic?
Yeah. Well, no, I think he probably could smell whiskey on my breath, but like, he did go quite hard. I can remember thinking like, it was a big mix of like, do I just sack this guy off or should I take on board that maybe this is how people see me? And it was the latter. I left and we agreed that I wasn't going to drink for 7 days and that I'd see him again at midday on, the next Wednesday. And I left and I thought, do I not care about that? Or like, do people see me that way? Like when I go for a job or a meeting, like do people just think I reek of whiskey and look like a fucking loser? And I thought, well, just in case, let's do the week. Wow. Did the week and ended up doing 6 months. And, we became very, very close. I even brought a friend of mine who had a drinking problem to him as well. And he went sober for 6 months. Like it was a really positive time,
Great.
My biggest one was I thought it was more than just a conversation. I thought it was going to feel like a huge thing.
Yeah.
And I remember walking out with the first one thinking, well, well, that's weird. I've just had a chat for an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Surely this doesn't lead to anything.
Yeah.
And I like the fact that it felt like nothing. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's nice. It doesn't feel like a big thing in your week. It's just like, all right, I've got a few meetings.
There was no diagrams.
Have a game of tennis, have a bit of therapy, then have some dinner. It feels like nothing in the nicest possible way.
Yeah.
Final question.
Final question. Here we go. How do you talk to your kids, especially your sons, about their feelings? And what do you want them to know that you weren't taught? How do you talk to your son, your
really
kids, especially your sons?
That's really interesting. I definitely find it harder with my boys than I do with my girl. Definitely.
Really?
Yeah. Like I noticed that, and like I have to remind myself as a parent to try and be more equal with them. I find it much easier to wrap my arms around my daughter and tell her that everything's going to be fine and that she's safe, and she needn't worry, and nightmares aren't real, and the BFG or whatever was on the Tony isn't real, and give examples of other stories that Roald Dahl's written that aren't scary, and it's all make pretend, and I'll take her upstairs into bed with me and let her fall asleep on my chest and like stroke her hair and make sure she feels all of the security and the safety and the love. I don't do that with the boys.
Really?
Far sterner with the boys.
I've made a few mistakes in the past where I've said something and I've realised what I've said, which is kind of like, sticks with me a little bit. I remember we were on holiday once and we were kind of diving off the side into the sea, and like we had a hoop, right? So we were kind of diving into the hoop, right? And he was scared to do it, and I really toughed him out to do it. He didn't want to do it. Didn't want to dive into this hoop. He was scared, and I made him do it, right? And like because I was like, oh, this is an important lesson.
Parenting's mad.
I went into kind of like, this is a transformative moment for him. I am gonna fucking dad him to death. I'm gonna like that, and it was such a fucking wrong thing to do.
Now you think, why does it matter if he dived into a hoop or not?
Who gives a shit? Like it wasn't a big deal. And I was like,
it is now though.
Yeah, I bet it's now. He said it's the first thing that's gonna come up in therapy for him. I
remember this time. Daddy
made me jump in the hoop.
The thing is though, I think it's interesting.
Massive fear of water now.
You won't dive into anything.
None of us will feel like we get it right. Guys, I love that.
Yeah.
I really loved it. We should do this more often.
Yeah, it's been nice.
Thanks, guys. I feel like I've got friends for the first time.
Thank you so much for being part of that. Look, if any of this has hit something for you, even a little bit, don't just brush it off and carry on like nothing happened. You don't have to do that anymore. There are more ways to get support now than there's ever been, and therapy is one of them. And look, it's not just something to do when everything is falling apart. It's a space to talk and actually to make sense of what's going on in your head. If you feel ready for that, BetterHelp makes it really simple. It's online, it's flexible, and there's no judgment. You can go to betterhelp.com/onthemend and get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp.com/onthemend.